Hello, APCS students. I am Mr. McLeod, and I'm going to be answering a question about how to draw more natural-looking objects so that you can add cool-looking natural like trees and rocks and clouds to your picture. So basically, the main problem is if you want to just, draw a simple tree, you could do so pretty easily just by drawing, like a rectangle and a triangle. So for example, if I were to just draw a rectangle like that for the trunk, and then I just drew a nice little triangle for the leaves. This works pretty good for a basic tree, but it doesn't really look really natural. And so the key to making it look really natural is random variations. So that kind of leads us to, how do you pick a random number? How do you get randomness in a program? So there's a couple ways you can do it. I'm just going to show you guys math.random, and you can basically do anything you need to do with random numbers with that. So if we go to the, let's say you didn't have this, if you go to the math API, you could just basically look it up by saying math in Java, and it will get you to, technically we're using Java 8, so this is better, so wouldn't have changed really. But anyway, here's the math API. If you take a look at the math class, first of all, you can see that it's in java.lang is the package, and java.lang is special because it is the one package that is automatically imported without you saying anything. So that means you can just use the math class without having to import anything in your code. Now this has a whole bunch of nice methods for handling any kind of calculations, but it also down here has a random method. It is important to understand exactly how this works. So it picks a number from 0 up to but not including 1. Okay, so it's possible for it to be 0, but it will never be 1. So if we wanted to use this to pick, let's say we wanted to make a drawing that randomly kind of wandered around the page, if we just wanted to make a line that kind of wanders around the page, I have a project set up here that we could use to try and do that. So there's the driver, which just has the classic driver code, just simple main method that makes a random drawing class object and calls draw on it. So then our random drawing class is set up again similar to probably what you have for the starting point for your house. So we're going to write the draw method. We've already created Sketchpad and drawing tool, and we'll just pick a random location, or sorry, a random direction. So let's start with that. Let's take a look at the drawing tool. So in the drawing tool API, you can see that there is a set direction method. So it takes a double, right, a decimal number, degrees, So that means we can say in our code pin dot set direction, so that I'm calling this on the pin, and then I can just pass it a decimal number, but we want it to be random, so we can say math.random. Okay, now this will just be a number from 0 to 1, which isn't really what we want. We want it to be any possible direction. So it should be anywhere from 0 up to, but not including 360, because 360 would just be 0 again. So that's perfect. We have already a number from 0 to 1, but not including 1. So if we just multiplied that by 360, that would scale up to a number between 0 and 360. So then, if we want it to wander around, we could just have it move. So make sure pin.move, so we're calling it on the pin. Move 3, let's say, and then turn some random amount, right? So turn pin dot, and it doesn't matter whether you choose turn left or turn right. In fact, you notice here there's even a just turn, right? So you can go back here and just type in turn, and this is where again we want to pass in a random number. This time though, notice we want a number between -10 and 10. So if we were to show kind of a number line, we want the number from -10 up to 10. So if we drew up here, we already know how to pick a number from 0 to something else. So let's say from 0 to 20. Notice 0 to 20, that's the same distance as -10 to 10, right? So we're picking from the same size range. So then if we were to just shift this over, we would match up with the -10 to 10 range, right? So if we just subtracted 10, we would have -10 now be the smallest it could be, and 20 minus 10 gives us 10, so it now goes from -10 to 10. Okay, so let's do that. So we can say turn math.random times 20 gives us 0 to 20, but then minus 10 now gives us -10 to 10. Okay, so if I were to compile this and run it, we will get a line that goes off in a random direction. However, we want this to keep wandering, because you can barely see that line. So let's go back here, and we said here that we wanted to do this 100 times. So if you had intro Java, hopefully you remember for loops. You've definitely done for loops plenty of times in that case. So we can just say for int I equal 0, I less than 100. I'm just 100 kind of arbitrary. That itself could be random, in fact, but we won't worry about that. And then I plus plus. Okay, and then we want to just do this 100 times. So I can just put that inside the loop, and now it will keep doing that. This time when I run it, it will look a little more like what we were talking about. So there we go. See, it's wandering all over the place, right? Yay! So I mean, this right here, hey, this could be like a natural looking, side of a mountain, right? So you of course would want to continue it. So how could we use this to create other random things? Well, one thing you could do is I wrote a little code here that draws random clouds. So if I uncomment this now, it will call that. So we'll create a random cloud and draw it. So if we say run, you can see there it created a, so the strategy behind this was essentially you start with a oval. So if you look in the API, there's a draw oval method, and when you draw the oval, you need to pick the width and height randomly, but make sure that you store them so that you can then know when you're picking when you're drawing these other random ovals, you can be sure that you're picking positions that are guaranteed to be close enough to this that there won't be big gaps in your cloud. Okay. Now, depending on what you're making, hey, maybe you use the similar strategy to make the leaves in a tree. Maybe it's okay if there's some gaps here and there. So again, that's about controlling, how much randomness is there, right? So you might have to do a few calculations to figure out, what kind of max and min you would like to make sure that you get a good effect. Okay, so pretty simple strategy for clouds. Pick one oval to be the main oval to make sure it's all filled in the middle, and then you just kind of pick ovals that have random widths and heights in random locations that are right near it or even inside it. Okay, another way you can use this randomness to make a cool, like natural looking object would be if we make a random tree. So the strategy behind this one is if we start at some point here and we kind of curve around, so the way to get that curve is you're turning pretty, mostly to the left, rather than instead of turning from -10 to 10. You can play around with the exact details, but effectively you're making sure that you're always turning around to the left, and you'll get this nice little curve. And of course you have to just figure out how where do you want the stopping point. In my algorithm, I believe I stopped it right around where it started in terms of like the X position, because that usually looks pretty good if the roots are about as long as the visible part of the branches. And then the other side here, maybe it comes up, but there's some randomness, so it's not going to look exactly the same. Maybe it ends like that, right? And then the top part of the tree, you can just again fill it in with random ovals, or you can play with circles or other shapes if you want other effects. Kind of depends on what kind of tree you want. So if you watch this run, you'll actually kind of see I made it go, at least slow enough that you can kind of see it drawing. So if you watch that, there's the curve, there's the other curve. I also put a line on the bottom. And then you can see here I'm just kind of filling in ovals, but as I go up, I'm making it become shorter and shorter, so it kind of reaches somewhat of a point. Okay, and of course every time I run it, it's going to look a little bit differently. So here, this one will look a little bit different. Okay, so that's gives you a few tools that you can try.